have here. Always have two parts to our drasha every year. One is the theoretical, philosophical part, halachic part, discuss a certain yan. And then the second half is just review certain things of a taste, tiny taste of some of the brachot of the past year, some of the achievements of the past year. And I named this year's drasha Israel, the language of the Jews, as you'll see why. It's from the dress from Rabbi Norman Lamb from I think in the 50s he gave it actually. And but this year the drasha is based on some of the ideas of the Rav. The Rav has two major works on B'dinat Yisrael. The Rav in 56 essay Kol Dodido Faith, the voice of my beloved is knocketh, he gave, and it was the famous 6 knocks that he wants to say occurred, 6 knocks from God, occurred in 1948. Beautiful, beautiful essay. It's Kedai to read it. And the 4 knocks, of course, is the signs of God's hashgacha in creating the state. And then throughout the 60s, he would give the address, the main address, the keynote address each year to the Mizrahi Convention. And it was recorded, and it's called either the 5 addresses, the Chamesh Drashot. But in 1958, when he was giving his weekly shir to the Moriah, the shul in Manhattan, where he was sort of like the Rav there. He was most of the time, of course, in Boston, and half the time Boston, half the time YU, but he would give shir there in the Moriah shul. And on Yom HaTzvut 1958, he gave a beautiful drasha. So I'd like to quote parts of it. This is from Drashot Harav. Dr. Arnold Lustiger put it together. I called him up a few months ago. I said, "Can you just send me the whole drasha, in email form and in electronic form, so I could just cut and paste this?" It was very nice when he did that. And so let's go through that. Okay, obviously the 30 or so pages, 34 pages, we're not going to cover in the precious time we have. The goal is to get to the basic ideas and then take it home and enjoy. And any time during the year that something's not going so perfectly here, and you may be getting a little bit down from some of the challenges, maybe you want to have a reference to just see that the brachot dwarf all the challenges. And if you take everything in the right perspective, I think it's really very, very important. It could always be very refreshing. So, here we go. This is the introduction. The Rav on Israel 1958. Okay, so this is what he says. Beautiful idea. And this idea is a take-home idea for every day of a person's life. Nothing to do necessarily with Eretz Yisrael. It's just a hashgacha philosophical idea which I wholly subscribe to. So it says the following: the prayer recited to having partaken of a meal, this is page 1, of bread, Birkat HaMazon, is an intricate series of 4 blessings. Of course we know Birkat HaMazon, we thank God for the food, for the land, for the future rebuilding of Jerusalem, and we conclude with a blessing of gratitude. Right? So we all know that for all brachot of Birkat HaMazon, the prayer for land we mention is made of God's covenant of circumcision, giving up the Torah. So we have bris, a unique aspect of Birkat HaMazon, obligation of zimun, a designated layer needed to introduce response statements of blessing for others who have eaten with them. So we all know how benching, of course, is set up. And the wordings of the response statements varies depending on whether the number of the participants is 3, 10. We know you have Elokeinu, you don't have Elokeinu. We know the basic household of Zimun. The Rav continues that this is different than what? The bracha that we say when we have fruits and stuff like that, where it's either Me'ein Shalosh, Ala Eitz Val Priya Eitz, or Great and Fashot. So why such an elaborate series of brachot by benching? And a short bracha by other fruits. So listen to his ideas. There's plenty of answers you give. Listen to the Rav's approach, which I think is such a basic philosophical idea. Earth, man's partnership, Ezra, and man's partnership with God. So he coins over here. He coins terms over here, which I think mamash is so dim, at least for me. He's so done. The halacha is the difference in the blessings recited after consumption of meal of bread on one end and fruit on the other is clearly laid out in the Talmud. It says you will eat and you will be satisfied and you will bless. That applies only to bread, not to other foods. In the form of fruit, man's station is minimal. So that's an interesting difference. You go ahead, you plant the fruit, plant a tree, it blossoms, It grows, it just keeps producing fruit. Not a lot of work to do. I know 15 years ago we planted an orange tree. We had a couple of years of orla. And then the fourth year, and then after that, and every year we do nothing. I don't think our water system has been on forever. Okay, it's gone with the rest of our yard. But that tree keeps going. And there have been thousands of oranges with a zero work. And he says bread, on the other hand, it's unbelievable amount of work. So now you say, wait a second, that's the difference. That's counterintuitive. You should say, God, thank you. I planted one seed 15 years ago. I've done nothing. You've handed it all on a silver platter. As opposed to the bread, I'm working like a dog, day in and day out, to take that wheat and make it into bread. So listen to what the Rebbe wants to say. He says in the middle of the paragraph, there is no fundamental difference between manna fell from heaven during the Israelites' 40-year sojourn in the desert and fruit that bears. It's the same thing. God basically is handing everything on a platter. Okay? But then he says in the last paragraph, page 1, the relative roles of God and man in the creation of fruit on one hand, and bread on the power, two types of divine intervention. Listen, there's two types of hashgacha. Yeshua, salvation, and Ezra. In Yeshua, man plays no role. God acts alone. In Ezra, on the other hand, man takes the initiative and Hashem becomes a partner in the enterprise. Colloquially, man can request Ezra's fellow man, but cannot request Yeshua. In other words, there's two relationships. One is the Ezra relationship, where we are working, we're doing things, and of course, without God blessing it, we're nowhere. The other one is pretty much just God giving us everything on a silver platter. He says, yeah, but so why do we thank God more for the Ezra relationship? Thank Him more for the Yeshua. And listen to what he says on the next page. Listen to what he says on the next page. It's unbelievable. So he says in the 5th line, and the first word on the line is condensed Brachim Shalosh. One would assume that Hashem should be thanked more for Yeshua than for Ezra, for the miracle of his exclusive involvement in the creation of fruit, more than for his assistance in the preparation of bread. We nonetheless arrive at the opposite conclusion. The more man participates in the effort needed to prepare his food, the more he must thank the Creator. And the part that I put in bold and underlined, our gratitude is increased. In the case of Ezra, of course, we must bless God for the privilege of allowing us to be His partner. When you go in and you just have a gift given to you, it's very nice. And we appreciate every gift God gave us. But the ultimate gift is that He gives us the gift of partnership with Him. And we work together with Him. That's the ultimate gift. It's beautiful. Those of us who grew up in America, 50 years ago, 40, I think the company's still around, so the advertisement was for Greyhound at Greyhound, leave the driving to us. In other words, you just sit back, we'll take you around the whole country of America, and you just be passive, which is very nice. And that's nice too when God does it to us. He just takes care of everything. But that's a Yeshua relationship, which has its place. But the ultimate God gives us, gift that God gives us, is the Ezra relationship. You work. Whatever the field is that you're working on, spiritual, physical, whatever it is, and I'll bless your efforts. So the Rav says that's the ultimate. And he says an amazing, so point 1 is the difference between benching and greater fascia. One is an Ezra relationship. We thank God for the privilege to be His partner. As opposed to, thank you, God gave me this gift, I don't know it, thank you. Then he says another point. He didn't get to that, so we'll get that in a moment. But you see, you could all see what he's getting at. Then he says, Har Moriah still has Kedusha till this day, and Har Sinai nothing. Why? So this idea, right before paragraph B on page 2, he says, 6-7 lines up, the history of Moriah was different. Hundreds of years prior to God resting His providence, our forefather Abraham prepared an altar on the mountain and placed his son Isaac upon as a sacrifice. Abraham thus became a part in the endowment of holiness permeating the Temple Mount. The role of man endowment of holiness is a central theme in Halacha. It's Knesset Yisrael who sanctifies the festivals throughout the establishment of the new month, where the sanctity is vested in physical matter or time. And we find few instances where man is not the active participant in the establishment of holiness. As opposed to Sinai, okay, Jews, go, let's go. I'm just going to give you a gift here. Yeah, so the mountain was special for those moments that God's presence, so to speak, was there. That's it. We could all walk up on our Sinai if we knew which one it was. We didn't work there. Hamoria, we put our work in it. We put our investments into it. And therefore, it still has a status till this day. That's what he wants to say. And there's one more point, and then you can all guess where the Rav is heading. Indeed. But in a sense, this explanation begs the original question. Why are man's actions and not God's paramount establishment of holiness? The answer is that in the world, holiness has one source, sacrifice. Holiness and sacrifice, literally and figuratively, are fundamentally the same concept. Holiness can only be created through self-sacrifice, pain, effort, and exertion. A person does not anticipate the struggle, holiness cannot come into being. God's help, Ezra, asserts itself only after man waits with anticipation and certainty for it to arrive. Ezra is work, it's dedication, it's blood, sweat, and tears, it's anticipation. Is the plan going to work? Is God going to bless it or not? That is Ezra. That's where the real growth is. The Al-Shech has an amazing line. The Al-Shech says, Aramim Hashem kiti litani. I praise you, Hashem kiti litani. Litani means you lifted me up like a pail. He says there's another pshat. Aramim Hashem kiti litani means you made me a dal, poor, dal be'evyon. You made me a poor. I'm thanking you for making me poor. He says, if I understand the Al-Shech correctly, when you make me poor, you put me through crisis, not only financial, any kind of crisis. And we have to navigate and work through those crises, those challenges. We become stronger people. I always say, look at the Gedolim, look at our Moshe Feinstein's life in Europe, in Russia, look at the Gedolim's life when they were growing up. And the challenges in their lives that they had. And they still became Gedolim? No. They didn't become Gedolim despite the challenges. They became Gedolim because you're a different person when you have challenges in life. Well, there's financial challenges and shalom bayis issues and neighbors and your own children, and you have to work through stuff. There's issues you have to work through and bring out in yourself that you didn't even know existed. It's a different kind of growth. And that's all part of the Ezra relation. When we're working hard, physically, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, and then God blesses it, that's the ultimate partnership. And now the Rav naturally leads to suffering with Dinah Israel. Tonight, as we're on the eve of the 10 years, this is on 1958, I would like to make a reckoning. One can view the state from the two standpoints. He says it from one can view the state from an external standpoint, from political economic perspective of the State Department and British Foreign Office. God may rob, our beautiful gods. I won't spit on the floor when I mention the State Department, although I do feel like doing that. But I do not wish to deal with this aspect tonight. This is a Solomon. I wish to view the state of Israel from an eternal standpoint. The existing state of Israel is a miracle beyond doubt. At the same time, it's a miracle that came at great cost. At Israel's very inception, on the first night of Israel, bombs were dropped over the 10 years since. The relation of the state of Israel toward Jewry was like the relationship of mother to only son, saturated with trembling, fear, and security. Because one is never sure if the passenger bus will be attacked. 50 years later, nothing has changed. One is never certain. If a small fishing vessel go for Akbar will be fired by a mother who's still on sensation a few miles from the home is never sure if will become the next victim of Arab snipers or Arab knifers would be, I guess, the term of the day. Why something that's accompanied the entire history of the state of Israel necessary? The state of Israel involves holiness, and holiness only exists if man, through sacrifice, becomes a partner with God. The abiding partnership is the mitzvah of services, which the prophet refers through your blood, blood suffering allow us to merit the existence of Medina Israel. And he says at the end of the paragraph, Israel, Jewish history is a zigzag trajectory. Abraham was repeatedly promised a child by God. He had to wait many long years for Isaac's birth, ultimately to be commanded to sacrifice. That's the way human growth is. It is through us working hard, digging in deep, sacrificing, and that effort that we have with God's blessing, that's an Ezra relationship, as opposed to a Yeshua relationship. A Yeshua relationship, God just gives, and we just take passively. There's a place for that. But that is not the ultimate gift from God. It's not. The ultimate gift is the Ezra relationship, where we are working together and putting in, being mashkia, and God blesses our efforts. Okay? So this is the Rav 1958 with the Ezra Yeshua idea, and the ramifications are by benching, where we work hard to produce the wheat and the bread, we thank God more. As opposed to an orange, we do nothing, he just gives us thousands of fruits. It's great for us. We thank him. But the thank is that you gave us a punishment that we have to work. And then Moriah Hamira verse Sinai. And now, of course, he leads to Medinat Yisrael. To assert the land of prayer is central to halacha is obviously stating that the Torah contains 613 commandments. Even if one to maintain Maimonides' opinion, Yishuv Aretz is not one of the 613 mitzvot, this does not render this less than points. That's an amazing discussion, how you codify the 613 mitzvot, and if it's not on the list, then what does that mean? So the Ramban does not count daily prayer on 613. The Rambam does. The Rambam does not count Yishuv Aretz. Ramban does. It's interesting, but don't get confused. It does the importance of a mitzvah and of an action. It doesn't necessarily have ramifications. Oh, because it was in the list or not. It's a separate discussion. He says, don't be fooled. But now he has a beautiful halachic insight. If I'd ask you halachically, 68 years today, when the state was announced, and there's Jewish sovereignty, was that a halachic phenomenon? I say, well, halachic phenomenon, I mean, it's not from people who just announced the state. What a halachic phenomenon? What do you say? It's a great discussion.
Yeah.
To me, these discussions are so great because it brings up so many emotions. Someone really, Israel is the greatest power. Of course it's amazing halachic move. And then the anti-people, Ben Gurion, he can't do anything halachic. Okay, thank you for all the emotional responses. We talk like a lamdan now. With clear halachic thinking, at least an attempt to speak like a lamdan. Halachically, what happened? What
Given
you
the
say?
opportunity to do all the mitzvahs that
Oh,
apply.
very good. So then what you're saying is, it's a machshir mitzvah. You build a sukkah, now you can live in the sukkah. So building the sukkah, we call it, it's very, very important to build a sukkah. It's very important for the moel before Shabbos to bring the knife, right? Or let's say it's the eruv. That's a machshir, right? So you're having the Medina is a machshir because it will allow kibbutz galiyot. For some reason, the British people were not amazing in that area as they turned us down to die back in Europe. That wasn't a specialty of theirs. And only Jews will allow Jews. So, and then Jews will allow Jews to build base medrashes and kollels and whatever we want. So it's an amazing machshir. It's amazing pre-mitzvah, which I agree. Could we say even more than that? It's a nice question. That's a great question to think about. Today is a really good day to think about this question. We're celebrating all the brachot, and definitely, as Mrs. Katz said, it is a means to just the sky's the limit after 60. But what about the act itself of Jewish sovereignty? What's more specific? Secular Jewish sovereignty. Meaning it's not people who are guided by halacha, but it's Jewish sovereignty nonetheless.
The ones. I'm sure there were people that were guided by halacha.
They had a full range.
Full
the full range of people, but as the state halacha wasn't.
Even the ones that weren't were no doubt Holocaust survivors, and they were saving Jews from Europe.
Good.
So you're already on the road of you're doing a mitzvah of saving Jews.
That's true. I agree. And the road goes a step further. And Rav Tzvi Yehuda Kook, forget about it. He spoke about this a lot. He quoted Yeshua's Malko, Big Achron. He says there's two aspects of Yishuv Haaretz. An individual comes, Yishuv Haaretz. You came in 1840. The Karash Tamidim came in late 1700s. The Baal Shem Tov stood, each one the Yishuv Haaretz. When there is Jewish sovereignty on the land, that's the first part of the pasuk. What's the two parts of the pasuk of Matos Maseh? V'horashtem et haaretz, v'yishavtem ba. V'horashtem is where you have Jewish dominance over the land. That itself is a mitzvah. Then, of course, you can have a range of people. No, that's only what's halachic, Jews following halacha. You can have both ways, no question about it. Rav Tzvi Yehuda Kook clearly held, Rav Soloveitchik held, Jewish sovereignty itself, even if it's not from, even if it's like Achav, who was no great hero, even if it's like the Hashmonaim dynasty, where it was a bitter-sweet dynasty. It started off very nice, and then it went sour. And still, the Rambam's introduction to Hanukkah talks about that we had Jewish sovereignty for over 200 years. So many hold that that is Jewish sovereignty, and that halachically is Yishuv Haaretz. Yeshua's Malko really said that is the Iker Yishuv Haaretz, is that we have sovereignty, ribonut, And then, of course, each individual comes as particular Yeshivans. So the Rav says that. And he leans towards that position. And then he says on page 4, even if you hold not like that, which he holds by, but you just say not, and you say it's only a means, and it's only means, it doesn't have halakhic status per se, he says it doesn't matter. Because without that means, we're not coming home. It's miraculous that we reached 630,000, but who knows where it would have gone from there if we didn't have the state, because we saw what British were doing to us and turning us away, and who knows where it would have gone. So there's no way that we can have mass immigration and aliyah without a Jewish government letting us come in and develop. So he says either in itself, Jewish sovereignty per se is the mitzvah Yishvaretz, and even if you want to say the other way, it is a crucial and essential means for things to keep growing and developing. Okay, that's his halachic point, and of course he is based on the Ramban in a mitzvah Dalet in his commentary to the Sefer Mitzvah Rambam. Okay, so far that's the first piece. His hashkafic point, his philosophical point is they have an Ezra and Yeshua relationship, and he says it's a zechut to have the Ezra relationship. We work and we are partners to God as opposed to just receiving handouts, which has its place, but that's not the ultimate. And then a halachic position of what statehood means halachically. Okay? Any questions on that? Okay. So now, this leads very nicely into another point, where Dina Blank, I saw in the YU, maybe some of you see the YU to go, they had a nice issue for Pesach and for Yom Ha'atzmaut, and she wrote a beautiful article. She was actually in Beit Shemesh, so she was very kind to send it to me as well. And she wrote, her points were very nice, and she also quoted Rabbi Lamb, a beautiful line which is great for all year long, and I think it's nice to apply here as well. So she talks about how it's just crazy over the last century or so, how people just came and took control of the situation, and she was not referring to the Rav, but of course it just segues right in, the Rav's idea into what she talked about, is that they had that idea, that Ezra idea, and she quotes the Mishnah Pirkei Avos, if I do not take control over here, it's not going to happen. Hayom katam lacham ruba, there is work to be done, and she quotes the Piasech of the Rebbe. Rav Shapiro out here in Eish Kodesh, is a great uncle. In this passage, Rav Shapiro on the bottom of page 4 enjoins the youth of Talmidim to embrace the notion of hard work and to recognize that all such things in life require investment of time and labor. While this is certainly true in the world of Torah learning, it's equally true in the world of Jewish communal life. All the Jews with Torah and community development do not come easy, one does not have the luxury of abdicating responsibility. Instead, the Gezes insists, while Torah obligations require great effort and hard work, God did not assign us, page 5, responsibilities beyond our capacity to perform. Chazal pointed the famous Mitzvah by the outstretched arm of Paro's daughter, right, that it was far out of her reach, but she tried anyway. As she grabbed from Moshe, many things that seem out of reach are actually within our grasp. These values help understand what roused our young Jewish heroes in the 20th century. They were swept up by a sense of urgency and understanding that no one else would rise to challenge. More importantly, perhaps, they understood that simply hoping, yearning, and wishing from the sidelines would no longer be effective, would be sufficient. But people were in what mode? Well, the Jewish Orthodox were in what mode for hundreds of years? Which mode? The Yeshua mode. And there was a switch that needed to be made from the Yeshua mode to the Ezra mode. And so they did. So we celebrate this much. We celebrate the times of Jewish values that have motivated Jews throughout history. And then listen to this beautiful quote. It's a fantastic essay from Rabbi Lamb, which I think why you put all his essays up, and it's kedai just to see, because you're going back in history. Because you see his typing, that just put it up as is, you see his corrections, the old-fashioned, you know what a typewriter is? Anyway, so you see the old typewriter material, and you put in his apostrophes and cross stuff out, and I think it's all there, the why you put it up, and fantastic essays that he wrote and speeches. 1975, an inspiring Sukkot morning sermon, the Rabbi Noam Lamb exhorted his Jewish Center Congress to adopt these principles of action. Without labor and struggle, without exertion of the intellect, and long hours of patient planning, one can neither master the intricacies of any profession, nor can achieve great and satisfying success in any business. It is true about children. If we overprotect them, if we train them to accept easy triumph, the shortcuts to success, they will grow up without backbones, nurtured on the infantile conception that a wishbone is enough. Such people can never fly, they can only flutter. Their vision never soars, their dreams remain myopic, their conceptions petty. To be a Jew means never look only for the easy way. It means never to sacrifice conviction for convenience, although convenience in and of itself is no sin. It means always to search for the road of the greatest meaning and duty. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, the great founder of the Musar, put it this way: I've never asked myself if I can do something, only if I ought to. That's it. If it's something that I need to do, then I'm going to do it. And if I ought to, then I always knew that I'd be able to. This is the language of the Jew. So I took Rabbi Lamb's term. Rabbi Lamb terms the language of the Jew is a message of Yom Haazmaut. Herzl, if you will, is no dream, was piggyback on centuries of Jewish wisdom and deep in the tradition. And that's why I named the article about Israel, the language of the Jews. So I think the state of Israel refers to that language of the Jews. When people came along and realized the Yeshua approach is very nice, but we need to be involved in the Ezra approach. What made things really tricky was that the Ezra approach started when some Sofer Baal Shem Tov and the Gros Talmidim came early 1800s, and they came, a few hundred people, a few thousand people came, built some nice communities. I think the Gros students, the Baal Shem Tov students ended up together for a little bit. That wasn't such a good shidduch. So they realized maybe Yerushalayim and Tzfat love each other from a distance, might be a bit healthier, so they did that. And it was moving along, and then you had trickling in here and there. What's a little bit surprising is that the real movement was mostly with the secular Jews, and then Herzl, of course, took it to a new level. His pen was mighty. He was the most amazing writer, and he established political connections all over with the Kaiser there and the Finanza there, and he got stuff to him, all as he was dying. He was a weak man, he was a sick man, the doctor said, that's it. He just kept pushing. And he gave up his life, his wife, his family, they all suffered tremendously. They all died, committed suicide. It was a horrible situation, his family life. But he was just totally focused on doing this and saving the Jewish people. So, he himself at one point said that maybe the solution is to all convert to Christianity. One point maybe to Uganda. Okay, so it's all a question how you want to look at Herzl. Of course, his grandparents, the great uncles, they all converted to Christianity. His grandparents were made from was actually a Talmid of Rabbi. His father, Sam Lowe, he got out into the world of Hungary with emancipation. He worked his way to be head of the Hungary Bank. So that was the atmosphere there. Just Jews, liberal Jews, no connection to Torah, to Masorah. So that's where he came from. So you want to look at like, well, he thought about converting to Christianity. He was just a nothing. And you could look at it that way. Or you could say, like, he really cared about the Jewish people in the way that he knew. And he really wanted to help them out. He realized Christianity's not going to work. Uganda, that didn't work. So let's get back to the Jewish home. And he gave his life, but he had the abilities that many others just didn't have. Not too many people could write like him and be able to make all the meetings and this and that. It was like no finances, no movement. It was not normal. So the first World Zionist Congress, 1897, was just, he created out of thin air with his abilities. And Hashem blessing them. So it created such tension. So you had the Jews already being passive for thousands of years. Because we had a 70-year gap from first temple to the second temple. Okay, we got back there. Second temple was destroyed. Okay, we fought back. Bar Kokhba was still in the Ezra mode. Then another year goes by, another decade, another century. Everyone got into the Yeshua mode, out of the Ezra mode. There was some effort of the Ezra mode with the three giants, Baal Shem Tov, Grand, and some Sofer, which had some nice effects. But it wasn't like, it was movement forward. And it was the seculars that brought it to a new level. Because I think they had more skills that they could do it. Or for whatever reason you want to offer, that God knows, not me, or anyone. But either way, so as that took hold, there were two major strikes, in my opinion. You can feel free to disagree. Two major strikes. The Jews were not in the Ezra mode, they were in the Yeshua mode. And the people who were in the Ezra mode, leaders, were not from. So it caused a violent reaction in the frum world. Like, got to stay away from this. And in my opinion, once you dig in your heels and you're against something, it can have the greatest success and it can have so many indications of being divine, but you already are set. And it's not going to be easy to budge. And you're going to have your anti-position, whether they create a state, whether it expands in 67, whether you have more colas than anywhere in the world, whether they come in billions and billions of it doesn't matter. You're already set in your ways. Okay? You can agree or disagree with my analysis, just my analysis. But either way, Lamaisa, we have the Ezra approach. What was missing It came back in the strangest of ways, and has created, in my opinion, the most incredible place where like no country has developed in 68 years like we have. We are world leaders in just about everything with our hands tied behind our back. To me, if that doesn't represent a true, incredible Ezra relation, I don't know what does. So with that, so that's the hashkafa part of the shir, and the philosophical and halachic overview. And now we just get to enjoy whatever precious time we have left, just seeing some of the magnificent brachot. Okay, but it's just a taste. It is just a taste. The all year long, whenever I see the news, and I just right away cut and paste. I put it in my Yom Ha'atzmaut, but I already have my Yom Ha'atzmaut 2017. I got a couple pages already there, and it ends up usually 400 or 500 pages of material. And then I have the unbelievable bracha a week or two before Yom Ha'atzmaut, before the Shabbos Rosh. I give it a shul to just fit some same. I just cut it down. It's usually between 30 to 40 pages. But it's just brachos and brachos and brachos. Does that mean that we don't see challenges? Of course not. Of course we see the challenges, but you need to see that brachot, okay? And then once you appreciate the whole philosophical background that we just gave from the Rav and Rabbi Lamb, and we see that there's much two relations you can have with God, the Yeshua relationship and the Ezra relationship, and you see how history has gone, and we created a new kind of relationship with God, at least as a nation. We've created an Ezra relationship. God has granted us that partnership again. So when you see it in that philosophical framework of Rav Soloveitchik and the Piazetzna, where Piazetzna obviously wasn't talking about the deen, he was talking about that idea of hard work. And then you take Rav Salanter, I never thought, can I do, or whether only ought I do, it's just a different headspace. Okay? So with that philosophical framework, that Mizgeret, and then the halachic framework that the Rav presented as analysis of the Ramban, so just to me puts the second half of the Shir just in such a beautiful framework. Okay, any questions on the first half?
One thing I wanted to add is that I think that battle also went on within the Zionist movement. The left, the Gurian, they originally, I think there was a little bit of Yeshua in that because it wasn't supposed to be an autonomous state. It was going to be, let's talk to Russia, see if we partner with them. Let's see if we partner with the British.
That's an excellent point.
We were going to piggyback.
Very good
Nobody
point.
dreamed of it.
Even within,
it wasn't until Weitzman came in and said, listen, came in from the right.
Correct. Excellent.
Said, listen,
even within the people who are not relying on God, even within the Ezra, and the Ezra, of course, had two groups of people. The Ezra group had Ezra where we're going to work with God, and the Ezra Kochi Otz and Biadi group. You had a lot of groups over there. But even within the proactive group, there were different opinions. Just keep bringing people to Israel, keep bringing to Israel.
The sovereign thing was like a last minute shift.
Correct. So you had, Herzl's two main points were that you need to have political sovereignty has to be recognized internationally, which is why he just, worked till he died on that point and set the seats for that. And you need to have some self-defense system.
John Pinsky said this from the very beginning.
Correct.
After he died, then they grabbed his idea.
You're totally right. So within the Ezra world, you have a lot of different ways. 100%. Okay, so now with that Ezra approach, that we all, I think, hold by, the Ezra approach of the Rav coined so beautifully, so then you just look, and here we just could look at sort of the headlines of each topic here. So, of course, the most important aspect of sacrificing and building up this country is the spirituality. We're not going to be like nations, like we're all nations, but the spiritual growth. And the spiritual growth is, to me, incredible. So I like always to start to see the spirituality in Eretz Israel. So just a few points. As I said, I have 400 or 500 pages, cut it down to a few pages. There's so many points that I cannot put in, but at least just give a little tima of some of the brachot we have in spiritual areas and military and economic as well. So the new Mossad chief, Israel still needs God's help. So you have Yossi Cohn, the Mossad chief. I wouldn't say he's totally from. He'd be more Masorati type. He lives in Modi'in, and when he was first appointed as Mossad chief a few months ago, everything that's here is from this past year till now. Is he gives a drasha in his shul? So Yossi, Mossad chief, give a drasha, and it's unbelievable to go ahead and hear his drasha. We needed Siyata Dishmaya to create the state, and we still need Siyata Dishmaya. And do you think Yossi's talking about a Yeshua approach? Yossi's whole day is planning out. how to go ahead and kill the next Iranian scientist in the nuclear reactor. That's what he's thinking. He is a very much Ezra approach. But a true Ezra approach is we do everything down here. We ask Hashem Siyata Dishmai. And here, the head of the Mossad speaking that way. That's amazing. The head of the police is a frum guy. It's just a question of time, probably in the army as well. The Israel Cross today is given to whom? Anyone know? He was a topic 5 years ago of the Amos Midrasha, Rav Eli Sadan, who's an amazing person. You can read about him. So his guys have learned for many years in Yeshiva Eli, and then he wants to be serious in the Chacham, he wants to be tops in the army, which they are. And so he has that shiluk. Of course, each person has to figure out what path their family is going to take. That's another discussion. But the country is getting called frummer, not less. Someone just told me last night that the Har Herzl festivities, after the festivities over, first time that he ever heard, the announcement was made right after the festivities were finished at Har Herzl, was that what will we be doing now? Mariv Chagigi over there in the plaza. That's not every year. So that's just, you have to see the progress. So anyways, that Yossi Cohen's giving a drush. The head of Mossad is giving a drush in shul. That's beautiful. Moving on. The Bet B, Israel Defense Force celebrates the greatest Passover Seder ever, where it talks about that there were lone soldiers, 500 Israeli soldiers, lone soldiers, all the organizations that made them a beautiful Seder, and hit afikomen, it was mamash matin. So these soldiers who are giving up, they come from all over the world, kibbutz galiyot, and they're here to give them a nice Seder. Page 7C, altogether 93% of Israeli Jews to join in Pesach Seder. 93%! Now I'm sure plenty of them drove to the Seder and drove back. I don't know from, but you know what percentage of Jews in the States, and if there was no Israel, how many people, what all these people would be doing? They'd be celebrating the Seder in the States? No. Be praying to Jesus or Muhammad or be atheists. Because anyone who is not Orthodox in the States, within a generation or two, will be a Gentile. Facts. Was it 70%, 80% now? Assimilation? Outside the Orthodox, outside of Borough Park, and outside of the intense Orthodox communities. It's out of control. It's out of control. And here, by being in the Medina, they're with Jews, and they're getting stronger, not weaker, and not assimilating. What percentage marries Arabs? So you have the Russians, and who's Jewish, who's not. It's not simple. Of course, there's challenges, but you see the full picture. The second-generation Russian immigrants returning to religion. Crazy stuff. The statistics on the Russians as they came in, not very religious at all. Okay, you have to know who's even Jewish, not even those who were Jewish. Where there wasn't a shiloh about that, but they're not connected. The children and grandchildren are getting more from, not less. These are the statistics. On the bottom, page 7, Rav Aviner, the Satmar Rebbe, is visiting Israel. I always say that it's so important that a person that looks at as a state and is all excited near the Geula and this and that he has to do everything right to continue. And not the opposite, this process of the redemption. And if you have sin towards another Jew, well, you're shooting yourself in the foot. Because here you are, yes, beginning to the goal and this and that, and then you're hating other Jews. So Rav Aviner is to be so beautiful. So you think Rav Aviner has the same outlook? Rav Aviner is the chief rabbi of Bethel, and the rabbi in the Muslim court of the yeshiva there. And you think he has the same outlook on the state of Israel as the Satmar Rebbe? Even if you do major research on that question, you should be able to answer it. No, he doesn't. Okay? The Satmar Rebbe looks at it as the greatest klala we've had in thousands of years. We need to dismantle the Medina in order to have the Mashiach. That's Satmar Rebbe's position. And Rav Aviner is just a bit different. How does he talk about the Satmar Rebbe? Whether the original one or the present one? With praise? We argue. We have different opinions. There's no sinner. There's no any sinner. Satmar Rebbe was a giant. He was massive. He resurrected Satmar Hasidus in Williamsburg out of nothing. And he had his very, very, very harif position, which I just cannot see, and of course I don't hold by that position, but he's a giant. He's a giant. And that's how we have to speak. We have different positions, argue for the Shem Shamayim, and see his side, And that's it. So it makes sense. You can make sense. But never putting down the person, especially when the person was a gadol. So that is what Rav Aviner represents. There's some beautiful stuff from Rav Kook as well on page 9 and 10. Also, then getting back to the point that we discussed before about just understanding how the development happened, but the non-Muslim people involved. If you want to see more about that. Anyway, so spiritually, to me, the country is on a beautiful. We're progressing beautifully with loads and loads of challenges spiritually. Okay, then you have Tzahal, where, of course, we just had a few minutes ago, the planes flew overhead and everyone stopped. It was perfect time because everyone was outside in recess, and it was perfect because I gave a little Derasha to the kids, and it was right after the planes went over, and we have the top pilots in the world, and 80 years ago we just explored. And yes, on Yom Kippur we recalled the 24,000 that were killed, which is a horrible number. But 24,000 were killed daily. And just to understand the perspective. Every Jew that we've lost in Tzahal is a world, and it's a tragedy. But just see the perspective. They've given their lives to create a force here and a security here with Ezra relationship, as opposed to just a few years back, which is nothing. So Tzahal, the growth in Tzahal is amazing. Spiking idea of volunteers. Okay, then in 10b on the bottom, just amazing. The whole idea is in Nepal when we went to save the Israelis during the earthquake and to help out the people in Nepal as well. Then page 11, Israel's Iron Mole. Great name. The Iron Dome is for the rockets above. The Iron Mole is to protect, of course, tunnels. Now we cannot use anyone else's technology to stop missiles that come from a few feet away. Because if Mexico was lobbing missiles into Texas, they would no longer be Mexico. But only Israel, we cannot react. Because we'll have 68 condemnations from the UN in the world. So we have a hand tied behind the back, so we have to figure out how to stop the missiles from coming in. And then when they're coming underground, Chas v'shalom to clobber them. There. We have to deal with the world as sick as they are. Well, that's another question. How much we have to deal with the world? That's not for now. So we developed the ability to detect what's going on, which don't think it is simple. 100 meters under the ground to just feel out what's going on. But it's called the Iron Mole, fantastic name. Okay, 12, tunnel cave in number 10. Tunnels keep caving in, and the tunnel diggers keep dying, and it's really very upsetting. And they're not very successful, so they asked on page 13, right above E, when Major General Yoav, the Israel Coordinator of Activities, was asked by the Ma'an agency whether Israel had a hand in the collapse of tunnels. He evaded the idea and said, only God knows. Just know. So it's frustrating to them, but that's what are you going to do? Okay? That's amazing. Then, of course, we have the drones is the newest warfare, and we're, of course, leaders in that as well. Page 14, just Hakarat Tov to some of the giants in the Mossad over the years. Name you may not even recognize. We spoke about Yossi Cohen, but now Avram Barzilai was involved. When he was in the Mossad, he's 90. When he was in the Mossad in the 50s, 80,000 Jews from around the world he helped bring in from the Arab countries. Amazing people we have. Of course, I told. Then Mayor Dagan also passed away this year. He was involved in all the Iranian scientists that just mysteriously died and were blown up. That was all him. That was him. These are people, amazing people. So that's Tzahal, which keeps growing and growing and growing. Baruch Hashem. And then on page 15, Chachma, Bina, and Dat. In the world today, you have to, part of the society for sure needs to keep advanced in terms of this university level. It may not be for everyone, but you certainly need a percentage going and developing. And 6 Israeli universities ranked among the world's top 100. And if I said one among the Mid East top 100, not such a compliment. But the world's top 100, that's amazing. And of course, Hebrew is high up there, Technion is high up there. 5 times more Israeli university grads in 1990. It was growing in that area, which is that's how you do get many people need to go buy and to advance in that way. Okay, 16 kibbutz galiyot. Okay, just the numbers of people coming from around the world. We've davened for this for 2,000 years. All the psukim in Tanakh about the Yemot Mashiach are about that topic, and it's just amazing how it's happening in front of our eyes for those that want to see it. So you have from India, from China, from America, from France. It's just all over the place. And I like quoting this often. I probably said it in the past over here, and I'll say it again. When simple pshas we play, let our eyes see when you return to Zion, Hashem. And the Nazir, the Talmud of Rav Kook, said another way to look at it. Of course, I want to be alive when the redemption happens. That's not what I'm asking for. I want to see it. I don't want to be blind to it. Because I'm afraid that when this beautiful process happens, I'm just going to miss it. I'm just going to see the people telling me with 50 earrings and with the tattoos and this, you just see bad. And you'll hear that a Knesset member on Pesach said, I eat chametz on Pesach. That's all you're going to see. And you're not going to see anything else. So what is in our davening every day? V'techezena eineinu b'shuvcha l'tzion v'rachamim. Let our eyes see when you return to God. When this redemption process happens, I want to be able to see it. I don't want to be blind and just see this guy, no one is good here. Everything is bad. Look what the government did over here. And that's all the brachos. It's a beautiful, beautiful shot. So it's in front of our eyes. It's in front of our eyes. The Gemara talks about two sons of Gula is the redemption, is coming, the Jews coming home and the fertility in the land. I just look out the window, look at building after building after building, and look at the green. It's, to me, it's just screaming. I walk on the street, I'm barely on 365 days, yes. When you have the sweet smells of the honeysuckles, I just feel like I'm in the middle of the Gula. My kids got embarrassed the other night because the honeysuckles were really strong. I said, do you smell it? They said, yeah, paper bracha, made a bracha. I said, what do you smell? He said, honeysuckle. I said, no! You're smelling the Gula! I screamed a little too loud, so they were really embarrassed about that. Which I understand. I'll be more careful next time. That's what's going on, at least in my opinion. So, just page after page, that's 17 from Yemen, in fact, it's just everywhere, they're all coming home. Now, don't get nervous that my phone fell with the clock in it, because there's one over there. Okay. Israel and the nations. Now, I have so much rahmanas on the nations of the world, because we don't have time for psychology right now, but what you have here is Esav son of Yaakov. So there's a deep hatred they have. It's, in my opinion, it is subconscious hatred. You have Hitler, which is not subconscious. I hate you, I want to kill you all. Haman, I hate you, I want to kill you all. And then you have Kim, the head of the UN. If you would ask him, listen, there's about 3 million condemnations against the Jews in the UN, nothing against Syria. Will he say, that's because I hate Israel and I'm impartial to Israel? Will he say that? No. Hitler would say that. It's because I hate them, I want to kill them. Would Kim, the head of the UN, say that? No. He's on a lie detector test. And he says, no, this is just each one. I'll explain each condemnation, why I think it's fair. Would he pass the test? In my opinion, yes, he would. He honestly believes. It's not conscious. I don't believe it's conscious. Many of the people in the world. It's just, the Esav son of Yaakov, it's an unconscious force. He just can't deal with us. On the other hand, we become a world power. So many nations in the world are dealing with us. Now, where do you see this contradiction come out? The UN vote, UNESCO vote, a few weeks ago, that what? That we have no connection to what? The Jews have no connection to? Harabayit, to the temple. We have nothing to do with it, right? That's not part of our history. So if it's the Arab countries, of course they're going to vote. They hate us, want to kill us, it's fine. Our allies who were doing billions of dollars of business, voted that way as well. They're in a crazy mode. Subconsciously they hate us. On the other hand, there's a lot we have to offer. They do business with us and like stuck. Baruch Hashem, as bad as things are with American Obama for the years, they still do vote for us, and thank God he's moving on, and he should have a wonderful life somewhere outside of the presidency of America. And who knows what the future's going to be. We have two amazing people really looking at people running the world, so it's very, very heartwarming. So anyways, that's Israel and the nation. That's Israel and the nations. They don't know what to do. They know they're stuck. And I think it's an unbelievable contradiction between the conscious and the subconscious forces. That's just my psychological point. Take it or leave it. It's all good. Okay? So, you have the UN with 6 resolutions. One of them is that what? That we should give the Golan back to Syria. That's a good idea because he will take good care of all the people in the Golan. It's great. And then yes, that's sick. That's momish sickness. It's vicious. It's just because they hate us. It's fine. But you're vicious, like to put more people under. That you don't care about them. That's stuck the word. Then you have the same on British, which it's a golden era of trade between us. And then you have the world ranking us as a global powerhouse on the bottom of 19. And then you have the top of page 20, the what's it called, the Waldorf Astoria hotels ranked on the top in the world. And what's such sweet revenge. I know, I'm a rabbi, I should talk about revenge. It's so sweet. Who built it? The Mufti. The one who worked with Hitler. Read the article. He was part of the original thing decades ago. And we've taken it, we've made it to a world-class hotel, which is nice. It brings good business to Jerusalem. And if you want to have a break, I usually every few days stay there for a night or two. It's great. I don't worry. But if anyone wants, we could go together. Maybe work at it, I know him. Shabbaton there. So it's great, and look where we took it from. Read the history of it, it's amazing. Won the 6th of the world's healthiest country. Netanyahu named one of the world's most powerful people. This past week he was named one of the most popular people in America. All the people running for presidency, he outdid them. Ranked as world's 8th most powerful country. Is that crazy? And there's objective terms, it's not an opinion poll. It's not an opinion poll. It's objective in terms of military might and this and the capabilities and the Dolphin submarine series. It's objective facts. We're a tiny speck of a country where the whole world hates. It's not normal. Okay, and then moving on to page 22, economic progress, of course. Now this is a section we really should take home and read. Haredim, one of the great holy Shvatim. So the Haredi approach to Israel has been such an interesting one where the focus has been just build up Torah, build up Torah, build up Torah, especially after the Shoah. And the Torah is incredible. Okay, look at Ben Zmanim here, where all the kids, go to the Eish Kodesh and all the other shit. It's amazing, amazing, amazing. But yeah, within the world you'll have like Yehuda Meshi Zahav from Zaka saying with all the Torah, but also you have more people going into the workforce as well. But it's like an evolution. It's an evolution, and all worlds are developing in their own beautiful way. That Tzilami world was like, yeah, rah, rah, army, Medina, basically Latino, and then wait, what about the learning? And then as the years went on, 48, 50, then the Hesdi yeshivas developed. And then Rav Kook's yeshiva, where I learned for 10 years, and then do the army. Each world is developing its own beautiful way. And halavai that someone in this world could say, wow, there's so much beauty in that world. And halavai, so there's so much beauty in that world, and each world is growing. Don't forget, all the groups came in 48, were like, we have no history, it's no Masorah, how to look at a Medina. There's no Masorah like that, so each gadol just had to try to make sense of this whole thing. And of course it's going to lead to a machlokas. If we have a machlokas about where to put a mezuzah exactly on that door, or a door leads to the bathroom, we have this for 1,000 years, it's not even an argument. So you have a new phenomenon out of nowhere, you're going to have the yeshiva shore going this way and the Satmar, and each world has its beauty, and each world is evolving in its own magnificent way. So he goes, so Meshi is a fascinating person, the head of Zaka, a lot of interesting to read about him. Okay, moving on. So we just sent in fascinating articles about the Haredi world the next few pages. Okay, and then as I said, it's nice reading for those who have time just to see how each world I think is moving and developing and evolving. And 27, I won't call this a scientific study. You have to read and see for yourself. I wouldn't call it like a double-blind Harvard study, but it's not like just STEM. It's an interesting thing in the World Happiness Meter. So Israel, 11th happiest country worldwide. Some cute little statistics there as well. And you know what? I think that this Ezra relationship that we have set up with God, and it's so productive, and we're doing so well that yes, there's challenges. It's not always easy, but I think people sense a great purpose being here and growing here, and we're one big family. And you can be walking in the street with your stroller and it's not covering your child so well. Someone's going to walk over, hey, that's not good parenting. Put your cover on. And she's going to speak to you like she's your mom. Because she feels like she's your mom. And you say, oh man, I wish you could mother someone else's kid. But we're one big family with all of our fights. We are, and we're happy. Okay? Chesed, the chesed in this country is unbelievable. In the army, they have new programs for autistic kids. But not simply, they put on uniforms and let them feel part of it. No! Autistic people have tremendous strengths. They're very bright. But just certain communication skills are not there. So they've worked out programs to harness their strengths. So here you had until now where the 16, 17, and this one goes off into the army, and this one depending on what stream you're in, and then these kids are just lost. By being in the army, that's going to give them a step to the world. It's just amazing. They're putting millions and millions, hundreds of shekels in these programs to give people lives. That's in terms of with psychological issues. Then you have special in uniform, page 29, where more physical cerebral palsy and other units like that, where they could sit and package a parachute, whatever it may be. And it's expensive to organize these parts of the army, but it doesn't matter. That's what Jews do. That's what Jews do. So, and then you have on page 30, in the second paragraph, right before C, these children were in special education schools. Suddenly they reach the age when everyone else joins the army, but the gates are closed. They can't join. This program allows them to join the army, contribute, give for themselves, just like everyone else. Said Lieutenant Tiran Atiyah, director of the program. It's amazing, the chesed in the army. It's amazing, but that's like a segue for them to the army, then into society. It's just madhim. It's madhim. Then a beautiful survey. They did this around the world, where Israelis take advantage of a blind man. They did this all over the world, where they have a blind Ki'ilu, he's a blind man, he has a $200 bill and a $100 bill, and he says, "Okay, please give me change for my $20 bill." And the guy thinks, "Oh, wow, this is great. I'll give him $19 back, and he'll think, everything's fine." And I just walked away with $100. And it did it around the world, and it wasn't so perfect. In Israel, they did it every time. No, that's not a 20 shekel, that's a 200 shekel bill. Every time. That's the Jewish nation. We're not perfect, not yet, but we're going in an amazing direction. And then we have, just some basic ideas of Hakarat Tov. And Rav Lichtenstein, they just put out the Gush program, beautiful essay they wrote about the Arba Kosa. We thank God for each one of the Arba Kosa. And so too with Medina, we thank Hashem for each step of the way. Don't ever be kfui tova. It's not perfect yet. That's it. No thanks, no appreciation. When I said thanks, I'm not going to holler. Say hi. You don't have perfect b'chot. That's separate halachic shayla. Talk to your rabbi about that. I'm talking about a feeling. No, the Al-Shem said, it's just a feeling of Hakarat Tov to Hashem. So it's a nice little article about Hakarat Tov. Then I have some Israeli songs. These Israeli songs are, you read them, what beautiful. Modani kol boker shechazata nishmati. Modani, wow, which rabbi wrote all these beautiful songs? Then you have about Shabbat, what a beautiful matanot, the Shabbos is. Then you have Slach li aviki chatati lach. So this is the first year I had any exposure to Israeli songs from people. I remember having somewhere in the Lord. Yeah, I heard someone told us, "Oh my gosh," put it right to the Derasha. This is what non-from people are singing. Do they have any other songs that might not be so beautiful? I'm sure they do. No doubt about it. But the singing to Hashem about Shabbos, Matanot, Ketanot, you may have heard of these songs. Non-from people. Once again. If there was no state, they would probably be singing to Jesus, to someone, who knows what. It's amazing, they still have some connection. And to finish off with two cute little stories, and one very close to home. Is that cute? Accurate? Yeah. Okay, so I'll finish off in a minute. Rav Chaim Kramer, our own Rav Chaim Kramer made the Yom HaSvut Russia. What greater honor than that? So Chaim Kramer last week advised the children in Tel Aviv, this was last week on Wednesday afternoon, to make some purchases no big tar. You should build a bite on Israel, you just moved to the home, you should have lots of tzedakah there. The hour was a bit late, so he went to the Makol to pick up some food for his children before the long ride home. The Makol owner David told Rav Chaim that he's very sorry he cannot sell him any food because there's already Yom HaShon and all sales are prohibited. Rav Chaim's sick, he simply just buy a few lachmaniot or something, not a big purchase. And David told him he would love to help, but it was truly illegal to say anything at this point. So Chaim said, maybe I'll just give you the money, you put it in the kufsa after Yom HaShoah. So he said there's nothing to do. Okay, Chaim said he understands David's position, he left it at that. David felt very bad for Chaim and his children, but he simply had no choice. The law is the law with the penalty of one who violates it. There's nothing to do, he can't help. I'm sorry, see you kids, I'm sorry. Son, the owner had looked excited on his face, as if he had just won the lotto. Chaim asked David, what was the small about? David was almost too excited to speak about the novel idea. This is a Chiloni from Tel Aviv. I gave him the name David too. Rav Chaim made him the name David. And Rav Chaim the Haredi from Beitar. And he said, I have a novel idea. He told Rav Chaim the law only forbids selling food during this time. So it's not appropriate to do business while mourning for the 6 million Jews that perished in Shoah. However, there's nothing wrong, both with regard to the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, to do an act of chesed at this time. On the contrary, what greater way to commemorate the martyr's memory than doing an act of kindness? David then proceeded to take an empty box, fill it up with food, and hand it to Rav Chaim, which he was safe and quiet, right home, and the most beautiful day. This is the Jewish people. One last story, an angel on the train. Overhearing a hysterical soldier fighting with the electric company on the train, the man pays her family's debt to give her peace of mind. Monday, an angel on the train helped out a soldier in need on a train by paying her family's debt 1950 shekel, the Israel Electric Company. According to an eyewitness report, the soldier was crying hysterically into her phone while arguing with her. You see, not good off the power to her mother's home when another passenger took her phone and paid the debt for her. The soldier, who lives solely on the meager military stipend, is the only daughter of a single disabled mother. The mother lives off her Social Security benefits, which she receives at the end of each month. The amount owed to IEC had accumulated to a large sum, which was more than the family could pay until the next Social Security stipend. Daniel Danino, the eyewitness who was also a soldier, was shocked at the kindness displayed by the gentleman whom she identified as Ofer Yitzchak. According to a post that he had posted on Facebook, and a number of groups, including soldiers, tweeting the angel, Yitzchak grabbed the telephone from the hysterical soldier, paid the debt on the spot from his own pocket, and provided the soldier with a confirmation number so that she could verify the transaction. Danita reported that Yitzchak did it all out of love so the soldier can have some peace of mind. This is a man of action, values humility, and with a huge heart. Danita wrote in a description of Yitzchak in a post, she signed off by stating that the entire episode filled with pride, be part of the nation, devote itself to helping one another in times of need. The nation should be so proud of it. That his relation to me is just magnificent. It's a shame we should just go. Chaya, the Chaya. Yom Yom.
Kaya.